Hey guys, my name is Jason with Mount Baker Mining and Metals, and this is some really rich gold ore that I just went up and got from our new gold mine. And in a couple weeks, the snow is going to be melted out of the hills so I can get up and do some mining. I'm going to go drilling, blasting, mucking, and I'm going to try and show you the whole process from getting the rock out of the mountain to getting a gold button at the end. So stay tuned for those videos, but on today's video, we're going to crush this up, we're going to pan it out, smelt it down, and see how much gold is in this stuff. And for those of you who are interested, stay tuned till the very end of the video. I'm going to have some stuff from this video for sale on eBay, so you can check out our eBay store. And for those of you who are new to the channel or may want a review, I'm going to put the video of where I got this ore right after this introduction. For those of you who have already seen it or want to skip ahead, I'll put a timestamp right up here in the corner. But here is the area I would like to work. This is a section that's very rich. And my plan is, let me get set up here and then I'll tell you what my plan is. So I want to take a minute and talk a little bit about the geology here, where we're at, and what our overall plan is. This section of the vein is really rich. It assays between 2 and 3 ounces a ton. And if you notice, when we were down below, the vein was dipping about 30 to 40 degrees up. And the rest of the stope, if you could see anything up in the stope, it was dipping up 25 degrees. This section of the vein is flat. So it's a flat lying vein right in here. And a lot of times what you'll have, let's see if I can do this with my hands, is you'll have the veins oriented like this with my arm up and arm down, and there's a flat spot, and it's a bend in the vein. And as that fault opens up or moves, I'm going to exaggerate this, but it opens like this, and you get a really rich pocket in that twist of the vein or where the vein changes directions. And all the goodies from this vein system can work their way right down into that pocket and solidify. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is such a rich section of the vein. So this is where I really want to exploit this section. And it just so happens that about 25 feet farther this way, which is east behind me, will intersect that raise that I showed you down in the lower section of the haulage wave, down, that first raise that was making all that water. So my plan is we're going to punch through here about 25 feet. We're going to intersect a fault, and I didn't mention that before, but that fault is, that raise goes right up that fault. So we're going to intersect that fault, and then we're going to turn to the north, and I'm going to follow that fault until it intersects the raise. At that point, it's less than 50 feet of work, so it's it's not that much work, right? So once we intersect that raise, then we'll have access right down to the main haulage way, really easy and quick. We won't have to go all the way back the 300 feet to the transfer way, down across to the raise, down through to the main haulage way, back out. It's going to be way, way more simple. And for the first 25 or 30 feet, we're going to be in ore. So we can be making ore while we're developing this. It's called, I've always heard it called an eye drift. When you do just a little, it's going to be about 4 feet wide, 6 feet tall. You can see here the vein's about 3.5 or 4 feet wide right here. And so we can just drift on that vein. We might split shoot it where you take a shot of the vein first and then you take the rest that's waste, and we'll stack the waste underground here somewhere out of the way, just like the old timers did it. But we're going to drift in here, intersect that raise, and then once you've done that, then we've opened up a section of the vein where we can start stoping up on it, and we can kind of take advantage of our high grade and the gravity working with us, so we can take our eye drift, and on this north rib of the eye drift, this north wall of the eye drift, we're going to start stoping up, leaving pillars, and then we can slush all that muck down to this eye drift, send it down to the main haulage way and out to the blacksmith shop. So that, in a nutshell, is what I hope to accomplish this season. It's usually about the 1st of August to somewhere in the middle of October. So we have somewhere between 80 and 100 days usually to work in this mine. We got to wait for the snow to melt off, and then it starts snowing again mid-October. The start of the process is going to be a lot of rehab work. As you saw, we got a lot of work to do, a lot of timber work to do, some bolting probably, some mucking, just getting the workings in a situation where we can actually do our work down here. And then once we get the water line here, the air line here, then we can start drifting on this vein and making some muck. There's a section right here that comes across the vein, comes across right over here, and it looks like it makes a straight line right across the vein. That is the good stuff. That stuff is running huge amounts of gold. This is kind of where everything was concentrated, right in this band, right along here. I'm going to try clipping my little microscope on my camera so we can see right up close on that vein. I don't know if this is going to work, but this thing is really cool. I've talked about it in a lot of my other videos. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. So here we're cruising right around that section of the vein, and there's a piece of gold. There's another piece of gold. It's right, oh, there's another piece of gold. It's right in that flat band there. I'm not sure if I can get focused. The vein's not a smooth surface, but I think there's a couple pieces of gold down there. Oh yeah, there's, come on, focus. There's some more gold back up there. So there's some nice gold moving across that flat spot. There's some gold, there's some gold. Even though I'd like to scoop out just this little section, there's some more. Man, look at that. The whole vein has gold in it, so we're just going to take the whole thing, but this is, I wanted to show you kind of the high grade section. So pretty good stuff. Well, this is that section I was just showing you with the microscope, and there's so much gold in it. I brought a hammer and chisel. I got a real hammer this time, so I'm going to try and get some of this out, but I want to show you how hard this is. This is not just knock it off real casual. This is hard stuff. So let me work in here a little bit and see if I can get some of this gold out of here. Oh, check this out. I got this good piece. Look at that, right through the honey hole there. Oh yeah, that's a good piece there. Look at that. You can't see anything, can you? That's a good piece. I might have to take that home and cut that one up. I got a bunch of really good looking stuff off that face. I've got some more of the fines over there on my sweatshirt. And yeah, I'm done for the day, and I've got to pack all this stuff out the 3 miles up the road as well. So, but one more thing I wanted to show you here. I don't know if you can see, that might be a little bit better. That's all ore. So there's a couple tons of ore just sitting on the ground that we can muck right away before we even start drilling and blasting on the vein. This is going to be kind of the introduction video to my mining season, so stay tuned for a lot more videos to come. I'm gonna film everything, hopefully get it all on YouTube so you guys can see this, and I'm really excited to start this kind of new adventure for the channel and have you all come along with me. If you'd like to support us, we have a Patreon page. That will really help. You can find the link below. So I just want to say thanks again to everybody, all the viewers out there. So here's a little up close look at what we got. The gold hangs out again with all this stuff right in here, this gray mineral, this sulfide mineral, right along there. Sometimes I find it right up against the hanging wall, like on this piece. Other times, as you saw in the previous video clip, I'll find it right in that band, right along the center of the vein. So the first step is to get this in the crusher. I've taken out a couple of our really nice pieces here. We're going to slab these up in the saw. Here's our bucket with our ore in it. You got to take off 2 pounds for the bucket, so it's about 10 pounds or right about 5 kilograms. Our first step is to run it through this little jaw crusher here. We're going to crush the ore down to about 1/4 inch minus, and that'll allow us to crush it finer through our next step. Here's what it looks like after the jaw crusher. It's about 1/4 inch minus. There's a few pieces a little bigger in there. But now we're going to run it through the pulverizer In the past, I've kind of screened this out and looked through for some high-grade gold pieces, but for today's video, I'm just going to run it all through the crusher, grind all the gold up, and we'll pan it out and see what we can recover. This is our little pulverizer mill. It's a disc mill, essentially. There's two discs there. One spins, one stays stationary. And you feed the material in the top. It goes down in the middle of the stationary disc and grinds up until it comes out the bottom, and we'll catch it as a fine powder. I wanted to show you here real quick. We've ground up our sample, but it's always important to open up these discs because, see right there, and actually back over here as well, there's gold. Let's see if I can get this up and in focus for you. A little piece of gold. The big gold gets stuck between the plates, and if you don't open them and brush them out, you might be losing some gold. So that is a good sign. You've got big gold stuck between the plates. Here's the crushed after the little pulverizer disc mill, and it does a really good job of getting it real fine. So now let's pan it down and see how much gold we can get. Now before we get to panning, I've taken out half of the sample. I've got about 5 pounds in this bag. All the way up around is 5 pounds under there. And so this is our first item going up for sale on eBay. So check it out in the listings. So here's the other half of the head ore. I'm gonna just pan it down now. And this isn't all of it. I'm gonna have to do 2 pans worth. But I'll get this all wetted down, panned, and I'll show you the gold at the end. Here's a look at our finished product here. Pretty nice gold line up there. All the way from there, all the way around. And that's from only 5 pounds of ore. And there's some bigger pieces in there. There's like a nice little piece of wire right there. Let me see if I can get it up a little closer so you can see better. There's a nice up close look for you. Lots of yellow. Lots of really fine stuff. There's that bigger piece of wire. So that is a really nice showing for 5 pounds. Really, really nice. In the past, I've run 500 pounds and haven't found that much. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck my gold line up into the snuffer bottle. And we're going to try and keep it pretty clean. We don't want a lot of sulfides in there. And I'll do that a couple more times, get it cleaned up. But once we get all the gold in here, then we can put it right in the furnace, right in the cupel, and get the gold out without having to smelt it all down. Take my straw out, turn it over, shake all the gold down to the cone there. You can just dribble it down into a little spot there in our blue shop rag. It's a little dirtier than I would have hoped, but I think we can get all that junk out of there with the bismuth. Oh boy. So there's our little gold pile. Now I'll put some bismuth in there. We'll put it in our furnace. So I'm going to try and wring some of the water out as best I can. Now all that paper is going to burn off in the furnace. Then I'm going to add a little bit of bismuth, maybe 10 or 15 grams. That's more than you need. So we're up to temperature. I always like to preheat my cupels. That's in there ready to go. I put my little gold packet up on top of the furnace. It dried it out quite a bit. So it should, not have nearly as much water. And then we're going to add our bismuth. Kind of right on top of where the gold is. And that bismuth's going to alloy with all that gold in there. It's going to oxidize any base metals. The oxides are going to be absorbed by the cupel. And then we'll have a precious metal button when it's all done. Well, just for fun, I think we should smelt this stuff down. There's probably a little bit of gold in there that I didn't get it with the snuffer bottle. And there might even be some gold tied up in those sulfides. Here's our flux recipe. This is 100 grams of soda ash, about 65 grams of anhydrous borax, and about 35 grams of silica. So we're going to mix the stuff in the pan together with this. And then I've got a new little bismuth recipe I'm going to try. Here's another little something I'm going to try here, see if this works. I've always struggled how to get that little bit of stuff out of there and fairly dry. It's really hard to get it out. So I'm going to try the same process as I did with the gold. I'm just going to wash it all down into a rag, and then I can wring the rag out, get it damp, it won't be dry, and then I can put it in with our flux. Let's see how this works. Well, there might be some merit to that method. I've got to get, it's damp, right? But I've got to get this fairly well mixed up in there now. So let me pour our damp stuff in there. And then what I'm going to do is just rip up the rag into kind of small pieces and put it in with the flux. And then we'll shake it all up, and the carbon's all going to burn off of there. And that's going to take some practice. But I bet we can make it work in the future a little bit better. Put a lid on and give it a good shake here. Well, there's our stuff. We'll see how that works. And then I've kind of powdered up, crushed up some bismuth down there. And I've added, I don't know if you can see it down there, I've added 3 little tiny copper wires. And what I found is adding in some copper, just a little bit, like 1 or 2%, keeps the bismuth not nearly as brittle. And so it separates from the slag a lot easier, and you don't lose any little broken pieces off the end. So we'll mix that in there, give it another shake. We'll pour it in our fire clay crucible here. And that bismuth is going to act as our collector metal, and it's going to come down through the slag, and the charge is kind of like a metal rain. And as it rains down through this molten slag mixture, it's going to collect all the gold and all the silver, and it's going to bring it right down to the bottom into a molten alloy here, and then we can separate it from the slag later. We're down in our furnace there. Let's get it fired up. Let's have a look at our little bead here. Might be able to get it blicking over. Yeah, that's a nice one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of there and put this cupel back in the furnace, and we can reuse it for our smelted cone. Here's our cone. I've doused it with water just to make sure the metal prill isn't molten anymore. There's a little bit of metal there. Let's see. There you go. We'll get it out of there, see what it looks like. Well, here's my button. It's still a little bit brittle in the corners, so that's no good. I might try and add a little bit more copper or some other metal. You guys got any suggestions? Leave me a comment below. But now let's go put this in our cupel, and we'll see how much gold's left in the sulfides. All right, right in the furnace and our used cupel. You oftentimes don't want to reuse these, but I think there's still enough capacity in there we can make it work. While we're waiting, let's go get these things slabbed up and see if we can find any free golden quartz. Well, now we're going to move over to the diamond saw here. This is my new slabbing saw. Again, this was possible because of my patrons. So if you're interested in becoming a patron and supporting us, that would be awesome. There's a link in the description below. But we're going to take our piece of ore here, and we're going to run it through the saw, slab it up into a couple, 3 or 4 different sections, maybe more, and see if we can find some free gold. Okay, we're clamped in here. I'm just going to slab along this way and hopefully I can intersect some of these bands of sulfides and see what we get. But our diamond blade here is just going to chew right through it. It's a little bit of a slow process, but it makes really beautiful slabs. Here's our first little slab off. We'll take a look. Well, there's not a whole bunch of nuggets sticking off of there, so I'm going to crank it over 7 turns here. There's 7 turns, ends up being right about 3/8 of an inch. We'll take our other slab. Well, I'm 3 slabs in. I don't even have them cleaned off yet. And look at that piece of gold right there. Very nice. So I can get it out of the glare for you. We'll take a look at it under the microscope here in a minute as well. But so far, every slab has gold on it, the first 3. So it's looking pretty good. We got our second one in here. I'm going to do this one about 5 turns, so they'll end up being about a 1/4 inch thick. And we'll probably get, again, 2, 3, 4 slabs out of it. So let's see if we can find some more gold. Now let's have a look at this guy. That first piece broke. Oh, there's some promising looking stuff in there. And like I said, I'm going to cut this into 1/4 inch slabs. The first one I did 3/8. What do you guys think? What's the best thickness for slabs? Is it 1/4, 3/8? Some guys do jewelry out of them. Some guys do cabochons. Let me know. Leave me a comment in the description below. Well, here's our first rock, guys. I sliced up. I got 4 slabs out of it and 2 end pieces. This end piece is still pretty good size. But I wanted to go through and show you some of the gold on these. Here's probably the best one. Big piece of gold at the top there. And also back over here, there's a nice little piece. This is the book matched one to that one I just showed you. Bunch of gold down here by my thumb, as well as over here. It's really nice, that milky white quartz, a little bit of sulfides and gold in them. It looks pretty cool. Here's our second rock, rock number 2. Show you a couple of these. This one's got some gold down in here with those sulfides. There's some more back over here if you can see it. And on this one, there's also a nice little piece back over there. So both of them have gold. Number 1 has maybe a little bit bigger pieces, but number 2 has some really nice gold as well. And these are, again, those about 1/4 inch pieces and make really nice cabochons. We're going to break out our microscope again, take a look at some of our cut slabs. And again, I've got a link to this in the description if you want to check it out. Here's looking at that big piece. And it's right there in the middle. This is from rock number 1, but watch what happens if I tilt it away. Bam, it flashes. I can't get it in focus, but there's a nice little piece of gold there, and then it looks like it goes into the quartz as well. And then we'll move over here, and there's that other piece. Real nice looking shiny piece of gold. That metal reflects back so well once it's cut. Here's a cool little spot, kind of that vuggy, rusty iron stuff, but see all the gold in there? There's a big piece and there's a bunch of little speckles around there. Here's our gold bead. It has a really interesting texture on it. But I'm going to put this one up for sale on eBay as well. Hopefully somebody can make some really cool jewelry out of it. But it's very, very yellow. Now let's check on our bead here. Oh, it's it's done. Look at that little tiny thing. It's going to be hard to make money with that. So our cupel is starting to cool down here a little bit, and our bead is right here. Looks like garbage. It's not really gold colored. I don't know what this is. This might be a chunk of iron. I put some nails in there, and I just kind of grabbed a little handful, and there may have been a chunk of iron in there that ended up down in our bead button, prill. And so that, won't cupel away, so that was stuck on the side. But what I want to show you, it's still real hot, but what I want to show you is right here, here, there's little tiny gold beads there. And I think what happened is when I reused this cupel, when you're done with it, you can see the texture is pretty rough. And so as the button was shrinking, there were little pockets of bismuth that ended up getting pulled into the rough texture and cupelled away left little tiny bits of gold. They're actually speckled all over through there. So probably not worth reusing cupels. I probably should have known better, but wanted to see if it would work, and it didn't work very well, especially when you just end up with a little tiny bit of gold. So essentially we recovered very, very little, not even 2% of the gold in our original button. Another thing is a little side note, I got thinking about this cupel, and I think I'm gonna put this up for sale on eBay for $1 and see if anybody wants to try and crush this thing up and smelt down and see if they can get the gold that I lost. And the person who wins this, if you can send me an email after you've crushed it up, let me know how much gold you recovered, that would be much appreciated. It's the grand finale here. Let's see how much our gold bead weighs. Again, this was from right about 5 pounds. 0.63 grams. Let's do some math here. So to figure out ounces per ton or grams per ton, we're going to take our 5 pounds of head ore, convert it to tons, that's 0.0025 tons. And our 0.630 grams divided by our tonnage gives us 252 grams per ton, or 8.1 troy ounces per ton. That is pretty amazing. Well, I think I've proved the point that I've got some really pretty good ore up there that I'm going to go after this summer, so stay tuned for a lot more mining videos coming up. Be sure to check out the eBay links. I've got a bunch of cool stuff here from this video that I think you guys will be interested in. So check out what I got on there, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos, especially the stuff me up there mining and getting more gold. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.